Israeli airstrikes. Well, let's speak to Rami Shamma, who is the Operations Director for World Vision Lebanon. The organisation provides support for Lebanese families and refugee communities. Thank you very much for joining us here on BBC News. I wondered if you could outline for our audience around the world what the situation is on the ground at the moment in Lebanon and in Beirut.
Well, good evening first, and let me start by saying that when the escalation started 2 weeks ago, we didn't expect that we will reach this stage. Now on day 13, instead of things stabilizing in terms of the humanitarian efforts that are being done, we're looking at increasing needs, we're looking at increasing gaps, we're looking at more people being displaced and more schools opening to welcome the displaced. And as the humanitarian needs are increasing, our work on the ground is also, it is affected, and we are expanding as much as possible to be able to meet these basic needs.
Are people who have been displaced able to get basic things like food and water at the moment?
Still food, water, mattresses, blankets. We're talking about even psychological support, first aid psychological support for children. This is something that is considered to be a top priority for us as humanitarian organizations, and it still is a big gap on all of these levels. When the schools are opening, there are new schools that are opening. They don't have any of those, and we are welcoming the displaced people, and then we are trying to see what their needs are. And every single day, we are receiving new requests from new people who are being displaced.
Have you any idea how many people, for example, are having to sleep out in the open? They can't get into the schools and the other places that have opened. I saw that a nightclub, even in Beirut, had opened and put mattresses down for people to go in.
Thousands of people, I would say, because we don't have any exact numbers, but at least in one of the waves of displacement, we had around 2,000 people sitting on the streets of Beirut, where we had to support them with at least the food for the night to be able to spend the night until they had sought a new shelter to go to.
Are you managing to get supplies in? Rami, I don't know whether you heard that question. Are you managing to get supplies in okay?
At least for now, the supply chain is still manageable. We're able to all of the necessary items to be able to be delivered. There are certain areas in the country in which the aid is not accessible due to mobility and due to the airstrikes happening on the roads. So this is a risk that humanitarians are taking on a daily basis. We've had several incidents where strikes were happening just meters away from our either cars or trucks that were delivering the aid and assistance. Today, we were able to deliver to the south, even to the bordered village of Ramesh, three big trucks of support for the families who have decided to stay in this village. But this is a constant risk that we are taking, and we need to continue to be able to provide the basic needs.
And what is your biggest concern now if the conflict continues?
The biggest concern is that the conflict continues, to be honest. We really call for an immediate ceasefire, protection of civilians and women and children specifically. The children are in a very high impact at this stage due to their mental well-being. They are living in a constant displacement. There is a very big, unclear vision for how the scholastic year will be taking place. So there is a disruption. We're looking at 173,000 approximately living in 940 shelters. I mean, even us as organizations, as much as we are able to support, there's a very big gap. And if the conflict continues, we're looking at more and more gaps, especially in the water and the sanitation. We're looking at a winter season with no infrastructure that is able to support those families who are displaced.
Rami Shamma, the Operations Director from World Vision in Lebanon, thank you for joining us here on BBC News. Nearly a year after the start of the Israel-Gaza war, demonstrations have taken place worldwide.